Good afternoon and welcome to this new program, In-Depth School and Community. My name is Frank Bass, Superintendent for the Concord Schools, and I'll be your host for this half-hour program. We hope to be bringing these programs to you on a monthly basis, and depending upon how things go, it might be even more often. But I'm really pleased to start this year off with Concord High School. They're our first group to bring in, and I want to introduce my guests. It's going to be a very interesting interplay of various programs that we currently have here at Concord High School. And so I'll start with, on my right, which is Ms. Jessamyn Rockwell. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
Next to her is Mr. Jim Corkum, who is an assistant principal. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
And lastly, rounding out our distinguished group is George Golden, who has been here in our district for a number of years. And so let me say a few things first about all this so I give you an idea of where I'm going and why I'm doing this. So what you'll note is that all three of these individuals have lived in Concord for a number of years. Two of them have children in the Concord Schools, so they're quite invested in the schools and the community. And what this is all about is school and community. That's why we named the show In-Depth School and Community. So it's about making those connections. It's about understanding what the community needs and why our schools need to move in certain directions. So I'm really pleased to have this distinguished group before me. They'll talk a little bit about what they do and why they do it, and they'll also talk about the fact they live here and they have their children going to our schools. So let's start with Jim, who's our assistant principal, and I should also say a proud graduate of Concord High School. Jim, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you're looking at the program for this year.
Yep, so thanks again, Dr. Bass, for having me on. I am the assistant principal here in Commons B at Concord High School. And you are correct, I graduated from Concord High School in 2003, was a student here from 1999 to 2003, and through the Concord School District all throughout my public schooling career.
Nice.
Went to Merrimack College after that, studied history, and like I think a lot of our college students, wasn't quite sure what I wanted to get into after school.
Right.
Took some time to think about it, and then decided that working with kids was something I always enjoyed, and I decided I wanted to take that leap and go into education, so received my master's degree in social studies and education. Was fortunate enough to get a job teaching middle school at Rundle Middle School here in Concord for a number of years.
Nice.
During that time, pursued my administrative certificate, and then was fortunate enough to get an assistant principal position at a middle school in another district.
Yeah.
Job at Concord High School opened up a couple years later, and again, fortunate to come back to the Concord School District and Concord High School.
So it's like coming home.
Exactly.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
great. That's great.
Yeah.
Now, you chose the two guest panelists that we have here. Tell us what was your thinking about why you chose these two.
So just to kind of get the voice out to the community that just like any industry, education is always evolving. It's always changing. And a lot of times it's very different from, I think, what a lot of people might think just the traditional classroom looks like.
Yeah.
And so these two individuals I thought were two that exemplified what that change and evolution is starting to look like within our public schools.
Yeah.
And I thought they would be able to speak to exactly what's going on in their classrooms, and so people can hear how things are changing and just what is available, what resources our students have available to them here at Concord High School.
Thank you, and I think for our guests, as they've already listened to you for the last 2 minutes, they realize there's a certain dynamic spirit that seems to be endemic in this school. Certainly you have evidenced that, and I know we're going to hear more of that, but I did want our folks to know that it's a very lively institution, that folks here are very excited about what they do. They're always coming up with new ideas about what they'd like to do for the future. So it's an evolving school, as you already alluded to, and I think folks are always looking for new ways to challenge our students, new ways to find connections with our students.
Absolutely.
And so speaking of connections, let's turn our attention to Jessamyn. Now, Jessamyn, you run an ELO program, and you also do this thing called ROPES. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why you do it?
The rope class is an unusual class at Concord High. It includes 4 weekend trips that are required. It's a credit class.
Yeah.
And the ROPE actually stands for Reaching Our Potential in Education.
I love it.
But conveniently, it also applies to, we use a lot of ropes in this outdoor education type of class. So it's we meet during the school day, and then we do 4 weekend trips, and we do a lot of community service work. We do hiking, biking, paddling, rock climbing. We kind of run the gamut of outdoor activities, and so there's a lot of team building. There's some wilderness first aid. It's really a collection of outdoor education tools and
That's wonderful, but let
activities.
me ask this question now. So let's take someone like George. So George says, gee, I want to be in that program, but, cycling, I'm not really a good cyclist. I mean, am I still going to be able to play?
Oh, we have had kids who have not cycled since they were 7.
Right.
And,
that's George.
And we have bikes that are that we are able to use through another community program, Community Cycles. They loan us bikes. So we really provide, we can take a kid who has never done these outdoor activities and may have never had the opportunity or never had the people to go with or never had the tools to do so. And we can provide everything for them, down to sleeping bags, down to winter boots if
and
they
you
need
get everybody. It's a cross section.
Everybody, yes.
Wow,
we
that's
have,
really nice.
all kinds of students.
Wonderful.
And we practice the bike riding before we go out. We practice snowshoeing, practice bike riding, and we practice the rock climbing at the local gym.
Wow, that's great. We'll come back to the LO. Let's turn our attention to George. Remember, George had problems with the bike, but George does not have problems here in the school in terms of what he's able to offer and provide for our students. And George, why don't we start out by talking about a contest that you guys were involved in, and I think you did pretty well.
We did. This was the 9th year that through the Department of Transportation here in New Hampshire, they sponsor a competition for high school students. It's their bridge popsicle stick, bridge building and design competition. It's an annual event in the fall, and usually about 6 to 10 schools from around the state, depending on the year. And we've participated in the competition every year since it's been offered. And we're really fortunate here at Concord High School. In the technology education program that I teach with the classes Introduction Engineering, and that's where we do the project in. We have state-of-the-art design software. Autodesk is the software. We use a program called AutoCAD to design the bridges.
Nice.
The students, the representative, first of all, let me step back. The representative from the Department of Transportation comes in, explains the project, all the parameters, the size it should be, the weight it needs to be under. And so the students take that, they do their research. We use the design engineering process to go through it. We first research them, they design them. We design them on CAD, and then we actually go down to the copy center that we have here at Concord High School that has a full-scale plotter. We can plot the bridges out to the exact size they need to be, and then we use that to line up our popsicle sticks to build the bridges.
So time out. The popsicle sticks are conventional popsicle sticks.
Yep, just like
nothing fancy.
Nothing fancy. We use that and hot glue. Those are the only two materials you can use. And this year we won again for the 4th straight year.
That's impressive. Wow.
And I contribute that to the because the students, they're really into it. They spend many hours on them. I think leading up to the competition the week before, almost every afternoon there was at least 3 or 4 kids in the classroom working beyond the school day on their project.
Wow.
And also the design software we can get them perfect. But this year not only did we win, we won 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 5th.
How do you do that?
Out of 42 teams.
Wow.
And we had 6 bridges. All 6 of our bridges came in the top 10.
George, that's phenomenal.
So it's getting to the point where it's, I wish we could share the winnings a little, but they were excited.
Can you go past the state, or is it?
There is a national competition. It's in the springtime. This particular class is over by that. It's a semester-long class.
Right.
So if there ever is an opportunity that I can collaborate with Jessamyn in her extended learning program, they could maybe make that as like an engineering opportunity, independent study.
Outstanding idea. And let's segue right into Jessamyn. Go ahead. ELO, what is that?
Oh, well, it's Extended Learning Opportunities is what the acronym stands for, and that is basically any opportunity to earn credit outside of the traditional classroom. So we're talking about a lot of experiential or project-based learning. There may be a mentor on staff that's volunteering their time, or it might be me helping to connect the student with a community mentor, a business or a craftsman or something.
Right, time out. So I'm a student in the school.
Okay.
Why would I come to you?
Oh, many reasons, but basically what I'm trying to teach kids is, because this is a really new program to the school, there have been ELOs that have occurred in the school, but we have not had a staff person coordinating this. So I'm trying to spread the word to let kids know that This is, I really believe, I think the school really believes, and the district as well, and the school board believes that the motivation and self-direction really comes from genuine interest. And if you come to me because you have a genuine interest in something that is maybe not offered here at the school, or maybe something you're already engaged in, you know, if you're a high-level competition violinist and you spend many hours a week on that, we can turn that into credits, elective credits that you would get at the high school through a program, through an ELO program that I would help you to
So
create.
I come to you for this, and I have an idea about what I'd like to do. And let's assume you approve that idea, whatever it happens to be. What are the timelines for completion of that idea? And am I limited only to 3 credits, or could it be 6 credits or 9 credits, or how does that work?
There's we have like a rolling application process. It's non-typical, where really what we want is 0.5 credits is a typical semester class here at Concord High. So that is what many of the ELOs will start with, is 0.5 credits.
Great.
This is all elective. We are not replacing any core academic classes at this time.
Right.
And so we can start that at any point. It does not have to take the traditional, you start this on August 30th and you finish this on January 20th.
Right.
I have a kid who just started this week, and he's doing a plumbing and HVAC pre-apprenticeship.
Neat.
And so he's really excited. I have a girl who just started last week or the week before, and she's a student director of the Student Actors Program play at Beaverbrook School in our district. So we have kids that are starting early, starting now.
How many kids do we have?
There's about 15 that are.
That's great.
That's just ELOs. That is not including the independent study students, which are under the same heading, but I haven't created a personalized plan for them because they have a mentor within the building. George has students that are doing independent studies.
But they fall under your bailiwick.
They are under, they are under the umbrella of ELOs, but that's a student saying, I want to be certified in Revit or AutoCAD, or I would like to explore interior design, and they find a teacher mentor who volunteers that. So it's under the heading, but the work level is different.
You brought up an interesting point. So I go to George, and I want him to be my mentor. George doesn't go to Jim and say, so where's my extra $500 for this? That's volunteer.
It's volunteer. Independent study mentors are always volunteering their time.
Before we had Jess, teachers would supervise independent study students. But now with Jess, it's even more oversight of the work they're doing, which is it's really helpful.
That's terrific.
And this is all flexible based on student schedule, teacher schedules. I know there are teachers who will meet with groups of students at 6:30 in the morning, just because there are students who are passionate about a certain topic, and the teacher shares the same passion, and they want to share that.
So you take the 15 or so kids you got doing ELO, and then how many kids you got doing independent study?
That's definitely a longer list. There's probably 20 or so kids that are right now. We're talking about just this semester.
And then add the ropes people into that.
And then and they're actually we have student leaders in rope, and so they will be completing ELOs next semester. They'll do ELOs. So
it's almost like, I'm just envisioning in my head. So when Jim and I were in high school, you're not that old, but anyway, it was basically you want to do something after school. It was like mostly athletics, right? That was pretty much, or theater and music. But now what you're suggesting to me is there are just multiple opportunities for students to be engaged after school in a sense, school-sponsored activities.
Well, this is during school as well.
Even during
there
school.
Are some students who have schedules that are open enough, particularly the older students that might have a schedule that's open enough and that they can attend a pre-apprenticeship. The student's doing his pre-apprenticeship in the hours that he does not have a class here, and then he comes to his classes here. And so some kids are able to do that during the school day where they have a block of time.
Jessamyn, that's excellent, because what you have is a continuous flow.
Right.
So if I got a free period and I worked out a deal with George, then that might be my time that I could, do that independent study or follow through on an ELO program. Or it could be, as you said, in the morning at 6:30, 7:30, or it could be in the afternoon. So it's not a designated time, quote, after school.
Right.
Which is great.
Which is great for kids that are working, but they might have an opportunity to connect with another business that they're interested in during the school day. They could go to that community mentor, spend time with them, learning under them and interning in some cases, and then come here, do their classes and requirements here, and then maybe go to a different job or return to their internship.
That's great. So Jim, you said you graduated in 2002, right?
2003.
Sorry. A few years ago. What kinds of changes have you seen?
Oh, well, just the ELO program for one. I mean, I can't remember that being even really an option.
Yeah, sure.
For students who wanted to do some sort of career exploration or do some sort of internship. I can tell you another major change just from the time I was a student here is the transformation that has happened with our Concord Regional Technical Program.
Yes.
Our CTE program we have right here on site.
Right.
You know, a lot of the times that was a place for students who maybe just the traditional classroom wasn't working out for, and they would pursue some sort of vocational trade. And that is really also just transformed into some very high-level career exploration, anywhere from auto tech to graphic design to health sciences, lots of different options for kids who have a certain passion.
Yeah, that reminds me, George, you were talking to us before the show about kids who, like in drafting, and they got so good at it, similar to the CTE program, that when they actually went out into the workforce or into college, people were picking them up and saying, hey, you're so good at this, I'm going to use you as a trainer.
One of the other classes I teach site engineering, 2 levels of drafting, a woodworking class that was just brought back last year, the second part of the year, and I also teach architectural drawing, which is kind of like the capstone of the classes because drafting is a prerequisite for engineering as well as architecture. And so the students they'll take the drafting classes, they'll develop the skills for basic technical drawing. In drafting 1, we build on that in drafting 2, and then they'll take architectural drawing, and by the time they get to architectural drawing, they have a good understanding of the design software that we use. We also do freehand drawings.
Wow.
Those students in architectural drawing, we have a partnership with NHTI. It's called Running Start.
Yeah,
and,
outstanding.
They can earn 3 college credits. And I received an email from a parent of a former student a few weeks ago whose son took all of my classes, all 5 of them, and is currently his first year at Keene State studying architectural design. And he felt his abilities and his knowledge of the subject area as a first-year architecture student was so far above the other incoming first-year architect students at Keene State that the professor asked him to be a student helper in the class, and so the mom thought that was great. Of course,
it is great.
It is great.
Unbelievable.
And so she wrote me a nice email, and I was saying to Dr. Bass, that's not anything on me. That's what we offer here at Concord High for those kids that have that experience when they leave here.
Yeah, we talked about that before the show as well, and Jim, you could probably better articulate this, but you know, it's not about individual teachers or individual assistant principals or principals. It's about the sort of team approach where there's a synergy amongst the faculty. Go ahead, Jim.
Absolutely. We have an extremely professional staff here. The collegiality among the building in terms of folks who are willing to share resources, share assessment ideas, share all types of curricular design and instructional practices. It's really something special, and we have just the amount of in-house experts we have in all different types of fields of education is just so impressive.
Yeah, I was touring the school and I went through the English department, and a couple of people approached me, and I couldn't believe the excitement. I mean, I just first met me the first time, right? But they're telling me all about their what they'd love to see, like with the Shakespeare class or with Greek literature and translation and other kinds of courses they were looking to promote. So again, it's that always looking to the future, what's on the horizon that I can do to better reach and engage, my student population. And then I was over at your school on Friday when you're doing your PD, professional development for our folks at home, and I was with the social studies team. And again, it was like, wow, the synergy there, and they're all excited about moving around central points and how do we better correlate and coalesce some of these ideas in, quote, the history, social studies, and civics area, so it becomes more thematic, more unified, and kids can draw better parallels about how things all connect. So I mean, that's exciting, and that's the kind of spirit you want to have in your building. But I want to go back to George for a second, because you said at the beginning of the show that your wife teaches here in the district, and you have 2 children, one at the high school and one at the elementary school.
My daughter's a 9th grader this year, and she loves it. She loved. It was an easy transition for her coming from the middle school up to the high school. Great thing this year. I also been coaching the alpine ski team here for 20 years, and she'll be on my team this year.
Wow.
And my son is in 5th grade at Abbott Downing, and my wife has been teaching in the district for 19 years at the middle school, and she currently teaches 6th grade.
So one might say you're well invested in
We are. We like Concord. We live in the community. It's nice to be downtown, going out for a bite to eat, and having students say hello. It's always nice to see that. I was what you were just saying just a few moments ago about the collaboration. I just received an email just the other day of a science teacher that wants to meet with me. Because they're doing a project on sustainable design and with how the architecture piece relates to that, and that's kind of how this is one department working with another department. I'm a one-person department, so
I understand that.
many people to work with.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be able to branch out.
No, that's great. And Jessamyn, you have children in the schools.
I do. I have in 3 different schools. So
wow.
One at Millbrook in 2nd grade, and then one at Broken Ground in 5th grade, and one at Runlet in 7th grade, and then I'm here.
So how do you see that line as it goes from K to 12?
Oh, I have been so pleased with Concord. I grew up in a very small town, not in New Hampshire, and my husband did too. So to us, this is the big city.
Yeah, right.
And we are really grateful to be in this city. So many teachers at Concord High choose to live and work in our town. I mean, I would say that's more common here than really many other places that I've been, and that says a lot about our schools and about our love of this town, and the fact that people want to stick around here. We want to invest, and a lot of teachers have been here for a really long time. George has been here for a really long time, and so I feel like we've never had a bad teacher. I mean, my children have never had a bad teacher, and they've never had the same teacher either, because we're in some bigger elementary schools. And so we've only had one repeat teacher. So we've seen a lot of teachers with 3 children.
That's impressive. That's very impressive.
And we have never had a teacher that I didn't feel like I had direct access to, should I need it, or that was thoughtful, respectful, excellent teaching. My kids have grown academically, but socially and emotionally, I feel like they're just well cared for. And
yeah, I was over at Beaverbrook for breakfast the other day, and so I was getting the tour, and I met teachers, and I met some of the students, and like you say, it was like, again, the excitement and the sense of collaborative spirit amongst the teachers, and the familiarity that kids had with each other and with their teachers. Everyone felt very comfortable about being in the school, and again, you get the sense it's my school. I'm contributing to where our school goes, and so it's just a really nice feeling, and you can get that as you kind of go across the spectrum, from those elementary schools all the way up to the high school. So Jim, now I understand, and we don't know if it's for certain, but I understand there's been some discussion about perhaps a interim principal coming into the high school.
Yes, I know there's been some discussions. I had the chance to meet an individual recently. We have some administrators who have had the opportunity to work with this individual and just could not speak more highly of this person. I don't know where things are at this point. You probably know better than I do. But I know that the folks who do know this candidate were very excited at the prospects of them coming to Concord High School.
Yeah, I mean, for the folks at home, it's one of those unusual, almost serendipitous kinds of things that, if you had to draw out, if we all sat down together and said, okay, if we're looking for a principal at Concord High School at this moment in time, what is it that we want? And you draw that all out, you end up with this particular individual. It's almost like it's a marriage, made in heaven, so to speak. So it'll be interesting to see if he's in a position to be able to come here. But certainly many of us, including myself, are very excited about his potential here for the school, and I think that'd be great for all of us. But put that aside for a second. Let's just talk, Jim, a little bit about where the high school's at this moment in time, and the kinds of things you guys are invested in. You have counterparts, Steve and Tom and Tim, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And right now we just finished up our first quarter within our grading cycle and starting the second quarter. And before you know it, we're going to be at the end of January. This first semester is going to be coming to a close, and we'll be in midterm season. But right now, a big part of our focus is on our competency-based education initiative. Concord's really been invested in that, and George could probably speak to this better than I can, for 10 years plus, in terms of building competencies. And for folks at home who might not know what that is, a competency is something that I would define as just this much bigger idea that we want students to have a great depth of knowledge in, before they are able to move on to the next curriculum or to the next unit. And what it is, it's really ensuring that students, again, it's depth over breadth. It's really making sure you have a really deeper understanding of some really essential concepts. So that's constantly evolving. Teachers are constantly going back into curriculum maps and seeing, is this the best competency for this unit or for this class? And the other transition that we've been in at this point too is looking at how do we grade and report on these competencies? What is the best method in doing that? And again, as we talked about earlier, how education is constantly changing and evolving. That's another piece that has been changing and evolving over the years in terms of the best method to communicate progress to both students and to parents on how they're doing.
Yeah, so that brings up an interesting question. So, a lot of parents are probably saying, well, that's all well and good, and I like that. I hear the zeros are going out the window. We want kids be feeling like, they're flunking and there's got no chance for success. But by the same token, so kids are going on to college. And so how do the colleges respond to the grading system?
That's a great question. I'm glad you just asked that. We actually brought in a panel of colleges about a year and a half ago, as we were starting to investigate this transition, and had them come speak to the faculty, because I think that was a big question from the faculty was, okay, if we go to a competency-based system, standards-based grading system, what does that look like on a transcript? What does that look like for the college admissions process?
Exactly.
And the consistent message from all the college admissions reps is that a standards-based grading system in no way hurts a student trying to make application or try to make acceptance to a college.
That's great.
And some of the colleges that were in attendance that day were schools like Dartmouth, schools like Northeastern, schools like St. Anselm, Keene State, UNH. Really ran the whole gamut and range of different institutions that are local to us. There's been a letter I know put out by Harvard University that also says that like a standards-based grading system in no way would weaken a student's application. And I think a great message that came out of that from the admissions reps that came and visited with us was, we get transcripts from all over the world. Not one transcript looks the same.
Good point.
It is our job as an admissions rep to look at your school profile, look at what's going on, and then we make the determination of what those means. And they say we've had A through F transcripts, 0 to 100, 1 through 4, some that are just straight narrative. There's really no actual score. It's just narrative writing on a transcript. So it's really there's not one size fits all when it comes to the college admissions.
Wow, that's great. I'm really pleased to hear that. I know a lot of schools around the state are looking at CBE and trying to figure out a way to transform that, because teachers like George and I, we've been around the block for a while. We're used to the ABCD, we're used to the 0 to 100 score, and it's very hard to move off that into this new system, whether it's 0 to 4, 1 to 5, or however you want to define that matrix. But it's important, and I think the other part that you mentioned that's extremely important is it's about getting the whole concept for the child, making those connections, and walking away with a true understanding. Not that I memorized something for a test and got a 92 or a 93 and then forgot it 2 or 3 days later. Well, it sounds like a lot of great things are happening at Concord High School and the Concord school system in general. So I want to thank our 3 distinguished guests for coming in for this first show. I hope you all enjoyed it, and we're looking forward to bringing you more exciting news from our schools around the Concord area. It's been a great time here, and I look forward to hearing more great things from Concord High School. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.